We can start by talking about your newsletter, why you're on Substack, why the name, Heart Wisdom.
hmm
If you want to start, yeah.
I heard of Substack quite a while ago. I was listening to one of my favorite podcasts, and Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, she was the guest on the show, and she was talking about Substack and how it was this safe space to pour her heart out and just write and share with people. And I just remember I made this mental note and actually put a note on my phone to check out Substack. What is Substack? So that was quite a while ago. So that's where how I found Substack. But my name, my handle, Heart Wisdom, it's founded in so many different reasons and ways. Um, I've always been heart forward, always been a believer in love prevails, and not love in the intimate love relationship, but that love and kindness in this world with people is primary. And I also have learned a lot about the wisdom that lives in our heart, and that our heart actually sends far more messages to our brain than our brain sends. The majority of our messages are coming from our wise heart, and also that we have this massive energetic field that comes from our heart. It affects the space we walk into. So there are a lot of reasons why Heart Wisdom was the name that I chose. A whole lot of reasons. But that wisdom that lives in there, I also believe, is our inner voice that we often ignore. I think we are very programmed and conditioned to listen to the false narrative that plays in our head. And there's often this quiet little voice in there that we
Yes,
don't
we
listen.
have always we have always battled with the voice
Yeah.
inside
And
talking to us.
I believe that that wisdom is from our wise heart that is sending all those messages, as opposed to the brain sending the messages, which, conditioning. It's that differential between subjective and objective thinking, I believe.
Yes.
Listened to or read any of Wayne Dyer's books, but it that blew my mind when I read in his book the differential, the definition between objective versus subjective thinking.
Objective.
I was like, oh, so subjective thinking is what comes from this wise heart of ours. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
Objective
especially
from everywhere else.
true. Especially on Substack, the community are very supportive, and there's a direct communication with the readers. There's no middleman, no algorithm, so directly from your own heart to the readers, which is, I think, this application, like our, it's specialized with this. I like the idea of how you create, the heart wisdom, and I think it's an ideal name. We wish to have this in our hearts as wisdom.
But we do.
So you write about different topics, or what exactly
Mm.
the the subject that you're writing on?
I write about self love a lot. And, that leads me into, we can talk about defining that if you want, but I write about self love. I write about life's bumps, and I write a lot about relationships. I think that's another piece that ties into this heart wisdom title, uh, which is when we can talk about human connection, but when we are happy in relationship, things everywhere else in life go pretty well. And when our relationship falls apart, that intimate relationship falls apart, it impacts everything else in our life. So I write a lot about relationship. Um, I write a lot about healing from relationship, and also teaching a lot about all the pieces I find. I've been coaching for 9 years and have had so many conversations that are people looking for this definition of healthy versus unhealthy. And, that starts from within. There's that old cliche. It's like you can't be happy with anybody else until you're happy with yourself. There's some truth to that.
Especially wisdom reflects the life experience, your struggles, your wins, your spiritual growth inside, and how you guide yourself through it to find through the past your inner self wisdom as we speak. And especially together on Substack, I think we build a great community here. Uh, Hi Sue, Sue joined the conversation. Bernard, so say hi to them.
Yeah, I've
Uh, yes, no,
read some
go.
stack that are so tender that people have written about, personal experience, so tender. And I just love that. I haven't seen a whole lot of negative things on Substack. It seems like it's just this safe community where we can express whatever we want to express.
Yes, and it's an honest reflections. I think with spiritual clarity. It's hi Tajana. I think this leads us to be perfect in a way, not perfect 100%, but trying to be in that way.
But
Go the same way to try to be perfect at the end of the road. Yeah. What else? If
Alan,
we can talk, go ahead.
let's talk for a sec about that word perfect.
Yeah. Why
Fast.
not? Why not?
Yeah, because perfect is in line with that word should. Perfect is in line with what I was mentioning about that objective way of thinking, right? The sources that are external and comparison. But perfect, it's like I have this conversation with people a lot. We ultimately define what perfect is. Perfect to you in a certain circumstance and perfect to me in a certain circumstance could be very different.
Yeah.
And set this bar that we can never reach, that we compare ourselves to. So I think perfect, I just think I had to touch on that word because it comes with so much judgment and so much comparison, and we never actually define what perfect is for us in that moment, yet are comparing ourselves to something we haven't defined and we'll never reach it. Like it's fast.
Correct. It's a battle. It's a battle during the path when we put our standards to be in a way perfect, but this is a big challenge because life always is not it's not perfect in general. But personally, I put perfect as different standards with me on any checklist or write them down just to challenge myself to find a daily basis how to battle myself, how to grow, but it's not about uh, perfect as a perfect life, as a perfection. Just do the job and move on. That's the meaning of perfection because different people has different meaning about perfection, and even maybe they don't know exactly the definition of perfection or perfect. Perfections, Bernard saying, perfections are what make us human. There's a lot of beauty in that.
That's the title of one of Brene Brown's oldies. I don't know if you're familiar with Brene Brown, but her book titled "The Gifts of Imperfection" is exactly what she's saying. What he's saying, Bernard's saying, right? Our
Yes.
imperfections are, that's when we can hug our imperfections and become one with them and accept them and embrace them. They hold far less negative power over us. That makes sense.
Yes, Susei also being the best you can be. That's true. We often try to lead and to catch some tools and some challenges during our journey, but like perfection is really a big word. Like we have to aim to catch the path. It's not about aiming to lead it, but to catch the best tools in order to overcome our struggles. What do you think?
Yes, I agree. I think that it's what is best for self, right? It's living a life and making decisions that are in line with our values and what we believe to be best for self. And again, we are all individual. What is best for you and best for me can be different. It takes me back to that piece about having that attunement with our very wise inner voice and wise heart.
Yes, I think here where we found the link between heart and wisdom, your newsletter and how it links to my newsletter, Rise in Clarity. We like we delay our dreams, we stay in fear sometimes, we thinking we have time, but the real need is to do the things now, because clarity comes when we start asking what really matters, what we want, and what we have to do now. That's I think that's the link between wisdom, heart, and rising clarity to redefine our human capabilities, our own like efforts during the journey.
That topic leads into the conversation we were having about life is short and how that sounds so cliche. I get it. But I have learned that when life hands us a crisis, that is when, well, we either shift or we don't. But it's in those moments of crisis and loss that we start to see what does matter to me. What is the meaning to all of this? Why is this important? Why am I doing XYZ? So that life is short topic is, we touched on that. We've both experienced some loss, which, like I said, loss and crisis is where you get that perspective.
Yes, especially we have the social pressure, the fear, the inner critic. I think we have to get rid of all of this inside and just find clarity. It's very very nice when you find yourself, you love what you do, and then you go further, challenging yourself. It's not easy because ups and downs always during the path,
Mhm.
especially in my newsletter. There's the reason is to help people to rise above the noise, above the pressure, above the problems that they already have, and finding their own voice, like personal compass, or the frame that they define themselves. So I think this is that the people need this.
Yeah, and again, that circles back to that piece I was talking about listening to that inner voice that is often quiet, right? As opposed to these noisy untruths that we've picked up along the way. There's often a massive differential when we sit in a space and listen to our thoughts. And I have this exercise that I do often with people, which is say what you're thinking out loud and then ask yourself if it's true. And, I remember prescribing this to one of my male clients in his 30s. And he looked at me like, this is crazy. You want me to talk to myself? And he came in 2 weeks later and he sat down. He said, "Oh my gosh, this is way different than what comes out of my mouth. I can't even say this." And that it's fascinating because this is what we listen to it every minute of every day. And is it cheering us on or is it telling us we can't? Like,
Yeah,
very eyes inner voice.
yeah, and especially when the people recognize that they can do it in a practical way. Like they have the tools, the best practices, talking to you as an example, as a coach, talking to themselves, emotional support, group community. Um, this the motivational tools every day, the calendar energy calendar. So all of this, they can use it as a trackable measures in order to find themselves, talk to someone, maybe call a friend, just talking about life or whatever. So try to find the best tools that they can help you to grow or help you to solve a problem that you already faced. So this is very, very important. The people must know that there's some practical tools to do that. It's not like by one night you can just overcome your fear or your, yeah, it's so that's the importance of talking to the best coaches, the therapists. So it's different tips, maybe sports, the best sports that you have to do. There's a lot of examples that they can really challenge themselves and just to overcome whatever they have as an obstacle or a barrier.
Hmm. One of my favorite, and I'd love to hear what one of your favorite tools are, but after I'm done here. But my favorite tool is journaling, and we under and breath. Breath is my number one, but we underestimate the power of journaling and get stuck on the white page syndrome. What do I write? How do I do this journaling thing? And I believe our journal is the next best thing to a good coach or therapist, because it's a format where we can pour out what needs to come out. And when we, like I said, this saying it out loud and writing it down, it when we get it out of our body, it no longer holds us captive. When it lives in here in the silence and the automatic old ways, it has a way of getting in our way. So the journaling piece, I often say, hey, just set a 10-minute timer. 10-minute timer tells the brain that it's going to be over soon, and we can find 10 minutes anytime, but setting the timer gives the brain the freedom to know, okay, there's an end to this. It's a little brain hack. And then just writing down at the top of the page, how am I feeling right now and why? And that self exploration can be such a gift, and in 10 minutes.
Especially the first sentences that it hits your brain, you can start writing and you see the clarity after that, how much you get relieved. And it's really nice. I practice this when I start writing, write one sentence a day, I already mentioned before, and have a mini book after 1 month for 30 pages, which is 30 sentences, sorry, which is gives me like a small article, mini article, a mini book that I already shared. It's really nice because you see clarity, you see your own effort, your own growth in a different ways because you're talking to your brain. That's the key. That's key.
and and tuning into your heart, right? Like
Yeah,
this.
because it's mixing with feelings for sure.
Yeah, because I believe that when we write out the initial things that are top of mind, when we keep writing, we can tap into our subconscious mind. And our subconscious is where all those habitual behaviors live. It's when we sit in a car and we don't think about how to drive the car. We just know we drive the car. That lives in our subconscious. It's habitual, as do all of the thoughts and feelings and behaviors and reactions to life that we have. They're automatic. So,
Yeah.
in cracking into that, which we can do when we journal.
Yes, Sue also telling us emptying your thoughts out into the page.
Hmm.
Yeah, clear your mind through your sentences, through your words. I think this is lead us to the third thoughts is based on this growth and healing process don't happen alone. That's like the final point is a human connection that it's everything. So tell us about the power of human connection in your opinion.
I don't, I vaguely recall this. So I don't know if I will be sharing it as eloquently as I could or accurately, but I believe there is a study done a long time ago about that determined that the the most negative and cruel thing that can be done to a human is to put them into isolation. And this was done, I believe, in jails. I don't know where this study comes from or where this comes from, but putting somebody in isolation where they have no contact with other humans is the biggest form of cruelty. So, yes, connection. But this is this thing, I don't, we created this incident, had this moment in life where we were all locked down and somewhat isolated. And we're seeing the impacts of that. I see it in my practice. I saw it, during and right after this being alone. And if, being single, the stigma that comes along or is attached to being single and alone and the pain that we carry with that. And that stems back to that piece where I talk about love for self and learning how, if we are alone, how to enjoy our own company, right? And so, yes, connection, human connection. We can all go sit in a coffee shop and at least say hi to a barista, but that doesn't fill that need and that connection to humans necessarily. So I think that this two part, right? Connection is essential for our health. But when we have a moment in life where maybe we don't have as much connection as we need or would like, there's this piece to learn about how do I like being with me and being okay with me, which is in line with all of this that we're talking about, that heart wisdom piece.
Yeah, it happens to me when I moved to a new city now, where I lived. I felt invisible for months, and
Yeah,
then start talking to my friends that they are here, or my family, go to the coffee shop, just talking to a stranger sometimes. This is conversation about, when I'm reading, as an example, have a conversation about the book that I'm reading with, like, on, and then have this 5 minute connection, maybe change your day or change your week, or
absolutely.
just recognize, or you learn something new from the people that you're talking to. And especially your surroundings is very important. If you feel alone, you have to connect with your surroundings, the positive people. Your family is priority, your friends. So the friends that support you in a way, they, like, during your path, you walk the same way. Like, they want you to be successful, positive, overcoming whatever obstacles you have, and then help each other. This is the community that you really need. Even if you feel, if I felt myself invisible for months, this is gonna end. There's an end point for this challenge. And isolation, you can reflect it in a positive way, to test your growth, to test whatever your potential, your capabilities.
Mm.
So I switched from reading into writing and start my writing skills, which I discovered myself, and I was more clear than ever, which is really nice. It's
Mm.
not about your profession, only what you do, but it's really inside what, like, this is reflect the heart and wisdom that we're already talking about.
This piece about, you being in a city where you didn't know anybody and felt somewhat invisible and felt like you could have a bit of a heartwarming moment with somebody over a book, for example, takes me right back to the beginning of our conversation where I talk about always having this kindness vein. And I think we can say the littlest things to perfect strangers and not have any clue what kind of an impact it can have on somebody. A compliment, an observation, about somebody that we walk by. And I think in this world, and I don't like to buy into but in this world we are so focused here.
Yeah, on the phone.
And it's like, well, when we just, lift the chin a little and take a look around, there is something we can observe and comment on and pour a little love into somebody else's bucket. I do at Christmas time, I do a 12-day Christmas email campaign. And I did this year's, I did it on Substack. And it really is all about connection and kindness and love and just noticing, yes, it's all about our internal self talk and how we show up, but that then has a ripple effect on other people when we use that and put it out there in the world. Anyways, I could go on all day about kindness, but
Yeah, this is leads the same point that we were already talking about before, is that you have to practice this and like try to express it out loud to the people you already mentioned around you. As an example, call a friend and tell them that you love him, as an example, or you love her. It's how many times we do that, how many times we call our beloved people. I
mhm.
don't think that the people know exactly the main concept we already mentioned, that life is too short. It's
Yeah,
really short. Yeah, this is leads us to the idea that it's really we need to just express whatever we feel, whatever we have to tell the people around us, especially beloved one that we love,
and
our family members, as an example. Yeah.
this is exactly why this life is too short piece. And as we said, as cliche as it is, it's so true. Because what happens is when we're living our life, we're busy, we're doing our thing. And like speaking to what you're mentioning, calling someone you love and saying hello, calling a friend and saying I love you. But here's what happens when life hands us a crisis. We automatically, when we lose somebody, we automatically go back to our last conversation with that person. And I find we often, unfortunately, sit in a place of guilt and have regret. And I think regrets are where beautiful lessons are learned. I love regrets. I think embrace our regrets, embrace our bumps. But it's this piece about when we lose somebody, we don't have the moment back. We don't have them back. We don't have them here anymore to talk to. And it's like, shit, I could have phoned them yesterday and said hi, and now I can't. So this is right in line with what you're saying, which is when you think, and I say to somebody, when you think about somebody, send them a note, send them an emoji, reach out for a phone call. But there's a reason why this internal wise voice is talking to us and thinks about, we think about somebody and go, wow, I haven't thought about them and for a long time. What's up with that? And then you learn, oh my goodness, they're going through a really hard time and could use a friend. Like there's just meaning under meaning under meaning when we tune into this wise heart.
Yeah, one moment of clarity, one honest conversation can change someone's entire day or entire life. You never know.
No,
Really, life is too short, especially when you mentioned the guilt, or you have to switch it and embrace it positively, as you already said. It's really in need. The people has have to know that. And
right.
we have to create, we have to be creative, like we create our own path. We call the people that we love, we call we do, even if we don't want to do that, we just try to do some exercise, some meditation, love yourself for 10 or 15 minutes. Just focus on your own voice inside, or your own thoughts. So even if you don't want to express it as I love you or whatever you want to talk, just practice this to yourself. Just like you have to be kind to yourself first in order just to flip it and just express it to the world. So this is very important also.
It's interesting because I find that, well, just one quick thing before we wrap up here. I find that there's this teaching piece around, we so often do give, and this is a bit contradictory to what we're saying, but we so often do give kindness and compassion to other people, and we don't give it to self. And it's like those moments where, somebody sits and shares something. I often spin it and say, if you were listening to your best friend or somebody that you loved say this right now,
So, yeah,
what would
say
you?
it to you.
And it's always different. It's like, well, I would hug her. I would tell her that she's got this. I would tell her that no, don't believe that lie. And yet we sit in this space where we judge and compare and condemn self. So it's an interesting it's an interesting position and rally between love for self, love for others, and which comes first. I'm a firm believer that this comes first, but sometimes when we have it for others, we can learn to spin it and see what we can get ourselves, right?
Yes, absolutely. You have any final thoughts or final expression to your subscribers on Substack, where they can find you also?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Heart Wisdom on Substack, which they can see obviously here with the links. I'm on Instagram. My handle is Uncover Your Best You.
Nice.
And my website is christinaketchen.com, where I have lots of good stuff there too. So yeah, I love being on Substack. I do feel like it's a place where we can pour our heart out, and there's seems from what I've experienced, I think I've been on for 8 months now. From what I've experienced, there isn't negativity. It's just doesn't seem to be there. So it's a beautiful space. And all thanks to, like I said, Elizabeth Gilbert, who she her mentioning of this safe environment where she can be vulnerable and raw on this thing called Substack was, oh, what's that? So I'm glad I heard that and glad I'm here.
Yeah, especially people have to know that your presence matters, your story matters, even on Substack or somewhere else. And don't wait for clarity. You have to create it step by step during your journey.
That's
And if you need a place to rise also, like they have to, like they are welcome to my Rise and Clarity Insider, which is the two concepts are in cross, like we cross each other's newsletter. And this is where you find wisdom in your heart. Thank you for being here and sharing your wisdom
Thank you, Alan.
and your love.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's any final thoughts, or that's it already?
Well, you touched on one thing I'd like to close it with, which is I know one thing for sure, that there is this universal truth. And the universal truth that we all have in common is we all need to feel seen and affirmed in this world. That is one thing we all have in common. We're all in it.
Especially, yeah, human connection based on group support, community, Substack. So this is key. Like, if someone needs help, just reach out, and then we are here to help people. And because I was one of them. I was one of them to battle this journey and just find my clarity at the end. So it's really nice that we do the collaboration and how we cross each other's newsletters. Really, the people needs this. I think it's very helpful. Thank you, Sue, for watching this also. Sue was my first
Yeah,
live partner. Yeah,
yeah, that's where I first saw you, was on that live. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you.
Have a beautiful day.
Same to you. Thank you.